of the very interesting aspects of this experience for me was that I have gotten to learn things that I don't know if I would say I would never known before. Certainly, by all means, there are things I've learned that I've never known before. But there are a lot of things that I've kind of put together in a way that maybe I haven't put them together before. The benefit of these back to back to back workouts from the physical perspective for you, the client, for you, the patient, for you, the person living with a respiratory disease, is that we have this incredibly concentrated, rich, compressed, distilled version of the ingredients that we know make a beautiful, magical, delicious soup. Or I almost feel like saying bouillabaisse. I'm not 100% sure what is meant, and I'm going to look it up just to be sure. Bouillabaisse, because it sounds like that would be something with a whole bunch of stuff in it. Okay, so let me look up bouillabaisse. Traditional fish stew originating from the city of Marseille, loaded with clams, lobsters, fish in a broth, delicately flavored with fennel and pastis, a licorice flavored aperitif. Okay, so that's it. That's what I'm talking about. So this boot camp is kind of like a seafood stew loaded with clams, lobster, fish in a broth that's delicately flavored with fennel and pastis. So bouillabaisse is what I thought I was trying to say. Another way to look at it as kind of like this tapestry, okay, with all these different threads, kind of bobbed and weaved together and then twisted and turned and altered and dyed and this and that. And, again, for you, the person going through it as a program, you get the balance, breathing, the breathing, balance, flexibility, and strength. You get the pulmonary cardio. You get the Tai Chi Qigong, the yoga, the meditation, the nutrition, etc. You get all these things, okay? And depending on who the chef is, okay? And the chef is not me, the chef is you, okay? And depending on who the chef is, and depending upon what lens they look through it on, okay, they're going to get a different type of tapestry, and they're going to get a different type of bouillabaisse. These glasses are clear, okay? If I were to switch over to these glasses, well, now I'm seeing things through a blue lens, okay? If I were to put on a yellow lens over a blue lens, things change again. And so again, what I'm kind of talking about, it's like when you're doing photo editing in, let's say, Photoshop, okay? As just one example of the ways that this works, because it works in many, many different areas of life. But you make a move. So you may say, I want to put on a blur filter as an example. Or you say, I may want to, increase the saturation as an example. Or I may want to add a layer as an example, okay? And what happens is over the course of your project, you keep stacking and stacking and stacking and stacking, but they don't just add up, because everything then is seen through this combined lens of everything else. And that's really what we're talking about. And that's really life, okay? It's a metaphor for life. But for me personally, putting up all of this content, and it's kind of funny because when people asked me at the beginning of this, a lot of people said to me, most people would have all 42 days worth of content written and recorded and posted before day one starting, okay? And that may or may not be true, but guess what? If that were the case, that could take me years to do, right? Because There's no urgency. Very often when something's not urgent, we find ways to put it off, right? And I said, nah, you know what? I think I can do it. I'm pretty sure I can get through 42 days. What I did do was I made sure I had all the yoga recorded at the beginning and posted. I made sure I had all the Brian Traskos Tai Chi Qigong. I made sure I had all the meditation, because that is not in my hands beyond a certain point. My stuff is in my hands. Now, it may mean that I find myself in a situation that I'm in right now, which is that it's 2:50 a.m. in New York City, and I just woke up to do this, okay? Which is okay, It's fine. It's a decision I make for myself. It's not something I necessarily recommend that everybody do, but it's okay. I knew I could do 42 webinars in a row if I had to, okay? But the beauty of this is that in all the craziness of it, and again, with the glitches, with the great things, with the things that are challenging, with the things that you have to run and be pressured on, it's kind of compacted this thing into, it's almost like a diamond, like the way that a diamond comes together. It's just like this pressure has created something that probably would not have been created in any other way other than this exact way, okay? So why am I telling you this? Not to tell you a story about the way that I'm a diamond and how I've been compressed into a diamond, no. But for me, what's happened is I get to see these lessons and I get to talk out these ideas. This is my own therapy. Trust me, you're watching it live as it occurs. But you know what's happened here is in these 42 days, I've essentially written my book out loud. Okay, I've written my next book out loud. And sometimes, as you see, you may find some of these are quick and straight to the point, and sometimes some of them kind of, bob and weave a little bit till my real point comes out later. And what you're actually seeing is you're seeing me work some of these things out, or you're seeing my brain kind of Rubik's Cube these into what I'm really trying to say. Nothing I ever do is written out. Nothing I ever do is I just come and I start. And it reminds me of a psychic that I used to go to who started with tarot cards, and she would start talking and start talking and start talking and start talking, and she would say, don't ask me any questions during this. This is my process, okay? And the process is, this is the warm-up, okay? This is what gets her warmed up and channeled in so that when the images and the messages start coming, she's prepared herself for it, okay? And so for me, it's like a warm-up. I start talking, and sometimes I realize something during the course of this, and it's really crazy that every day I realize something different. Every day I realize something different. So what I realized today in the context of the bouillabaisse or the tapestry or the Photoshop layered piece of artwork, okay, is this. There are days, and I'm not even going to say there are days, it's every day, okay? Every day is an opportunity for you to assess your, and not only an opportunity, it really should be like a ritual, okay? It should be a ritual. So in the same way that you come into the Pulmonary Center for pulmonary rehab and we talk to you, we say, how are you doing today? Okay, we check your heart rate and rhythm. We check your blood pressure. We check your oxygen saturation. And we put all these things together with what you did last time and with everything that you tell us for this day. And we see all this stuff through these varied lenses, and we say, okay, so here's what we did last time. Since then, you had this, this, and this. Your vital signs tell us this. And then, it's like, bing, and it tells us what we need to do, okay? This daily assessment and this daily ritual, adding a daily assessment as a daily ritual, I believe, is something that can be very helpful to you. And the idea that came to me tonight that I really think is going to help me tremendously, and can help you if you're ready for it, and if you're not, I'll tell you what to do instead, is the idea that you don't just need one thing in a day. You don't need one thing in a day. We need many things in a day. In order to reach ultimate pulmonary wellness, it's not a one-part process. There's 5 parts to it, okay? And the 5 parts of ultimate pulmonary wellness are medical, having the right doctor, taking the right medications, taking the medications properly, exercise, okay, nutrition, and we know that there's various nutritional aspects for different people, okay, stress management, relaxation training, and by that I mean really taking care of your entire emotional being, okay, and then prevention of infection. So that's the formula right there, okay, and the formula is these different layers, and by putting these things together, so we start here day one and we start applying these lessons and through the scope. So it's like if you start an exercise program, okay, great, then you add nutrition to it and your exercise gets better, and by adding exercise your nutrition gets better, and guess what, by adding both of these things your stress and anxiety get better, and guess what, when your stress and anxiety get better, well, guess what, you can rest better and you can exercise better and you feel like you can eat more joyfully, and what's the word that Meredith uses, more mindfully, right? You're not just shoving the stuff down. I shove it down standing up because I got to make sure that beast doesn't get it, okay? But the idea is that there's this synergy, okay? This synergy, which means that the sum of the whole is greater than the parts. And that means that all of these things put together and kind of morphed through each other's, eyes, and morphed through the lens of all these other components. And that adds up to something much more powerful than any one of those things could be on their own. And I would say I got to thinking, but I didn't, because that's not usually how things come to me. But it came to me that, guess what? On any given moment, we have so many different, I like to use quotes a lot. I like to use motivational quotes to kind of get the ball rolling on certain things and to apply them to certain situations that kind of put me in the right mindset. And so last week we were talking about when you want to breathe as much as you want to be successful, then you will breathe, okay, and things of that nature, okay. But what came clear to me today in a way that it never has before is that at any given moment, there's probably 20 different things that we can apply. And part of creating this bouillabaisse of ultimate pulmonary wellness, even more than the bouillabaisse of ultimate pulmonary wellness, is the bouillabaisse of your life and the tapestry of your life and the components that you put into your life and the ingredients that you put into your life. And so if you have a pot and you put in it water and a stone and that's what you eat, well, that's not going to be the same as putting in, a good piece of this or that and the other thing and seasoning it perfectly and this and that. So the idea is to try to use high quality products and then to season them to taste. The highest quality products seasoned to taste. And it's really metaphoric for life, okay? So the better the quality of the products you put in, and then seasoning them to your taste, the happier you're going to be, and the richer your bouillabaisse, and the richer your tapestry of life will be. Whereas assessment is the key to making the right moves, because in order to make the right move, we have to know where we are. In other words, a set of directions is useless if we don't know the starting point, right? So what I would say to you, and this is something that I do, I've gotten better at it because I pay more attention to it, so I'm able to kind of adjust the lens, in action as I'm doing different things, okay, and make adjustments to that. But to kind of say to yourself, what do I need today? And so what I'm talking about is this idea of like figuring out what you need for that day. And this also goes along, it's very interesting because, I use many quotes. I use many new quotes as they come to me, but I also go back to the old standby. So the standby is do what you can where you are. Do what you can with what you have where you are, right? Do what you can with what you have where you are. Do what you can where you are with what you can, what you have. And the thing is that we have to just recognize that life is dynamic. It's not static. So what we had yesterday is not necessarily what we have today. And so I encourage you to just periodically take stock and say, what do I need right now? Okay? And that has to do with so many different things. And I think that at any given time, I think it doesn't make much sense to really apply this to more than 2 to 3 and at a maximum 5 different ideas together, meaning like 5 different lenses, right? So it's like, okay, you put chocolate and peanut butter together and you say, wow, that's a great taste. And then you say, or like with a sundae, you say, okay, we're going to put ice cream in, we're going to put chocolate in, we're going to put whipped cream on, we're going to put and at a certain point it just becomes gross. Okay, now some people at home are probably going, no, that sounds delicious to me. But I think that there's only so much you can focus on at the same time and still get the richness and still extract from it everything that we need. So I'm going to say, and I'm going to give you today an example of this. So let's say there's 5 things. So you get up in the morning, you say, what do I need today? What principles do I want to apply to my day? And this is where journaling comes in so great, because you can kind of flip back through your stuff and you can look and you could say, well, I have this. Oh yeah, when I used this for that recipe, it worked great. I just refreshed you on the idea of ultimate pulmonary wellness for a reason. Keep the main thing. Stephen Covey, okay? Steve Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Great book. If you've never read it, everybody should read it. It doesn't matter what you do. It's something that just makes you think in a different way. The system of checks and balances. What would you do for a Klondike bar? And focus versus tunnel vision, okay? And believe it or not, ultimate pulmonary wellness, keep the main thing, checks and balances, what would you do, focus versus tunnel vision, are all connected, and I will show you how. So it's like a game show. It's like you say, okay, the topic, ultimate pulmonary wellness, keep the main thing, checks and balances, what would you do, focus versus tunnel vision, and I feel like Drew Carey should be there and be like, here's your day. Here's Noah's day, or here's your day, right? This is what came out of the things that you need. So ultimate pulmonary wellness, medicine, exercise, nutrition, stress management, prevention of infection. Keep the main thing, and that's where the assessment comes in so powerfully, okay? Wake up in the morning and say, how do I feel? How do I feel physically? Need some oil? Need some adjustments. Okay, I need my nebulizer. Okay, how do I feel physically? How do I feel emotionally? Do I feel calm? Do I feel anxious? Do I feel excited? Do I feel down in the dumps? Okay, so maybe I need to focus on that. Okay, how do I feel from a nutritional standpoint? Did I eat well yesterday? Or am I feeling the effect of that? Did I eat in a way that is supportive of my goals and the things that I want to do? Or did I eat pizza and popcorn and, cotton candy because the kids were in town, and guess what? Indigestion, right? So I haven't eaten like that in a long time, and now I'm paying the price of that. Okay, and that may be something that we have to work out over the course of the day. And then how do I feel emotionally? I feel depressed. I feel down. I feel this. How do I feel? What do I need to do? What do I need to do? And again, the assessment phase is, as I ask you all the time, how many of you are at your peak physically, emotionally, spiritually, socially, etc., etc., etc. Well, I wake up, I feel lonely today. I wake up and I feel lonely. Maybe there's somebody I can call. Maybe there's something I could do. I feel bored. I feel restless. I feel excited. Well, I feel excited. Let me take advantage of this energy. Okay, let me not just do nothing because I feel energetic today. Let me use this energy for something positive. Keeping the main thing means constantly shifting your lens and asking yourself, what do I need most this day? And that happens day to day. It could happen week to week, and that's why we have a weekly focus, but it can also happen over the long term. So I used an example in the intro, and I'll just give you some examples right now. So a patient comes to me and they are short of breath and they have COPD, but the COPD is mild and it does not really explain their level of shortness of breath. But what I forgot to tell you is that this patient is also 100 pounds overweight, right? Big factor or not so big factor? Huge factor, right? Because this weight, especially, I mean, 100 pounds is 100 pounds. That's 8 bowling balls. But the idea is that depending on where it sits, this person can have mild COPD, but their weight can also affect them from a restrictive component. So you have the COPD, which doesn't let you breathe air out, and now you have all this weight compressing your thorax that doesn't let air in. And somebody asked a question a few weeks ago, and I didn't ever get to it, but I'm going to get to it now. It's this kind of obesity hypoventilation syndrome, and it's basically where you don't get to ventilate your lungs, you don't get to take a deep breath because of the weight. So in this person, okay, the weight is crucial. And this is a situation where we didn't gain 100 pounds in a week. We're not gaining 100 pounds or losing 100 pounds in a week or a month. Maybe we're going to do it in a year. So 100 pounds, just to put things in perspective, we recommend that people lose 2 pounds a week. Otherwise, too fast, 1 to 2 pounds a week. But people say, oh man, only 1 to 2 pounds a week, because, that first month you're working your butt off and you only lose 4 pounds. But 1 pound a week over the course of a year is 50 pounds. 2 pounds a week over the course of a year is 100 pounds, which is very, very powerful. So it's very important, and I always make sure that when I have a patient like this who, is not going to feel better in 6 weeks, they're not going to feel better till they lose the first 20, right? So I'm looking at 2.5 months, okay? And it's important to recognize and put things in perspective that we don't have a 3-day plan. We don't have a 1-week plan or a 4-week plan. No, 6 weeks is the minimum, okay? But some things may take much longer, okay? If it took you, 20 years to gain 100 pounds, or somebody, who's been obese their entire life, well, guess what? This is a major, major challenge, because we've got to spread this energy out over the course of a year in order for it to be sustainable, right? It's a big mountain, but we can do it over the long term. It's not something that goes up fast. It's just physics. There's only so fast we can climb the mountain, but the idea is that if we lose focus along the way, then we could slide back down the mountain. That's why so many aspects of behavior change are so difficult to sustain, because sustaining or to really achieve, because it's not just, a lot of people can be strong for a week or a month or 2 months, but it's like when we get to 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, it's the people who, regardless of how they feel and regardless of what they think for that day, that really are successful over the long term, okay? It's the basketball player who goes out and shoots 500 free throws a day regardless, okay? They had a 18 for 20 game last night, but they're still out the next day shooting those free throws. Okay, so check this out. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Here's a Tony Robbins quote, and this is the first time ever I'm quoting Tony Robbins. I don't know why. It's not what we do once in a while that shapes our lives. It's what we do consistently, and it's really what we do day to day to day. So the deeper something is in your life, yeah, you could step away for a day, but the more delicate the balance, that's when the focus must stay on every day. So I'm talking right now about keeping the main thing, but I think this is a good time to introduce another concept from my 5, which is focus versus tunnel vision, okay? It's very important to remain focused on a task. When you're on something, you want to remain focused. You want to give it your attention. You want to make sure that you're doing the things that to ensure that it will be successful, but you don't want to become so focused on it that you have blinders on, that you can only see straight down that lane, because guess what? I'm going down this lane and then boop, someone comes from the side and knocks me off the lane, right? So the idea is that you want to remain focused, but consistently look at the tree and the tree and the tree and the tree, but then come back and take a look at the forest. And after you have this look and view of the forest based on what you've seen in the tree, go back and check each tree again. So to me, the lens is kind of always, sort of adjusting from near and far, and changing your focus and changing what it is that you see and how much you see of it. So it's the idea of remaining focused on the task at hand while at the same time not losing focus and not having tunnel vision to the point where you can't see anything else going on. Keeping the main thing the main thing. The person who has been in bed for 6 months, okay, because they were drastically sick, okay, they were very, very ill, they were in bed for 6 months or 3 months or even a month or 2 weeks, whatever it is, this person has become extremely sedentary. They've lost a lot of weight, much of it muscle mass, okay? So in addition to everything else, this person's main thing must be exercise, okay? And the nutrition supports the exercise, okay? In the case I told you before of the 100-pound overweight person, so this person's main thing must be nutrition, and the exercise supports the nutrition, okay? And again, it's that synergy, it's that synchronicity, it's that tapestry, it's that bouillabaisse that comes out. And again, we're always looking for, there was a hip-hop artist that, one of the earliest, and there was a song, it's called Looking for the Perfect Beat. All right, so yeah, let's look at this. Okay, so it's Afrika Bambaataa and Soul Sonic Force, okay? These are like early hip hop, 1970, when is this from? 1983, okay? But this is a bonus beat, okay? So this is really from like the 70s when hip hop was growing up in the Bronx, but my point in telling you this is looking for the perfect beat. Looking for the perfect beat. So we're looking for the perfect beat. We're looking for the perfect beat to be the backdrop for the tapestry of our lives. So we're looking for the perfect soundtrack, the perfect music, okay? And I use music a lot as a very, very, as a source of inspiration. But the idea is continuously look at what are the things you need to create your perfect movie. What is the soundtrack that you need? Who are the actors and actresses that you need? Or I should say actors, because actresses also calls them actors. But it's like, who are the people you need around you? What is the setting that you need? What is the music that you need? And that's really life. How do you decorate your life in the way that represents your truest story? Okay? You may be super anxious, and that anxiety may force you to eat, or that anxiety may force you not to eat, and that anxiety may prevent you from going for a test because you're afraid of what it's going to show, so you stick your head in the sand, okay? You may be, have social anxiety, and so that may prevent you from going to rehab. But so in that situation, your anxiety would be the main thing, okay? But guess what? The exercise will help your anxiety by using up some of that adrenaline and by releasing some endorphins and by calming you down and dilating your blood vessels and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And guess what? By cutting out sugary caffeinated foods, well, guess what? That's also going to help your anxiety. So again, the tapestry. So it's almost like the company of a theater company, and we're all singing together. And in your, it's this kind of, this kind of community of all of us singing together, but you have your own community of singers and performers. And so it's like you have this community, and they sound great together, and they sing great together, and they work great together as a company. But every once in a while, Tom needs to step out to the front and take a solo, okay? And then step back and see how that solo, it's like really like an improv company. So it's like every once in a while, Liz is going to step out and she's going to take her solo, and then she steps back and says, okay, well, where does Liz's solo fit into the overall tapestry of the improv, right? That's what I'm talking about. So keep the main thing, okay? Focus versus tunnel vision, okay? So remaining focused on the task at hand, but don't forget that this task is part of a greater whole. So it's tree. I'm looking at this tree. I'm looking at this tree, I'm looking at this tree, I'm looking at this tree. Let's look at the forest, and then let's do it all again. And the reason why, the reason why we have to keep doing it and doing it and doing it well is because that's a LL Cool J song. But the idea is that we have to recognize that the situation is not static, and life is not static, it's dynamic. it's constantly changing. It could change day to day. It could change hour to hour, minute to minute, second to second sometimes. And this is the whole idea behind continuously monitoring people during rehab. It's the idea behind getting a set of baseline vitals and then checking vital signs every 3 to 5 minutes and making adjustments to that, okay? Because not every day is going to be the same. Not every treadmill workout is going to be the same. Not every this, that, the other thing. Situations change, and that day comes and is the makeup and is the composite of these lenses of the day, right? So if you went out in the morning and it's like 12 degrees outside and that's increasing your airway reactivity and you're getting increased bronchospasm, well, guess what? Your day is going to be shaped through that bronchospasm. You'll see the rest of, you'll see the rest of your situation through that lens and through that filter. And so we have to adjust for that. We have to address the bronchospasm, or we have to adjust things to accommodate that bronchospasm, right? So it could be medicine, or it could be limiting your activities, or it could be I'm going to do this instead, or meditation or breathing exercises. But the idea is to focus on what you're doing, choose the main thing for that day, throw the stone, let the pool ripple before throwing the second stone. And it's funny because back to what I was talking about before about creating 42 days of content, one of the things that I love to do, and it's like a DJ who's trying to move the crowd. That's kind of how I see this stuff. It's like I'm the DJ trying to move the crowd. And so if I had done 42 days ahead of time, well, I would be blind and deaf to what's going on, right? I like to be able to get a sense, and that's why I love the live videos, because I love to be able to feel the crowd and get a sense of what is needed at that moment, get an assessment of what is needed at that moment, okay? And it's the same kind of thing with vital signs, right? So a lot of times somebody will join a rehab program or they'll get an exercise test, and I get the reports, and it's a 36 session program, yet the person has, the clinician doing, responsible for this program has written a program for 36 sessions. Now, how could you know what we should do in session 35 without knowing what happened in the 34 sessions before that? And that's the same thing with life. And that's why people are individuals, and that's why everybody has to be treated and their program adjusted for them, as opposed to a one size fits all, because we know one size doesn't fit all, because my 35 days are not the same as your 35 days, right? So the idea is early monitoring to establish a baseline. That's your morning assessment, right? That's you come in the day, or you wake up and you say, what do I need today? How am I feeling today? What do I need to do in response to this? And then the other aspect of it is, so what do I need to do? What do I need to do in this rehab session? Okay. And then monitoring and making adjustments based on what we see. But the idea is, what would you do for a Klondike bar? And the idea is, like, I'll talk about something like nutrition. Like, one of the toughest aspects of nutrition for people who have difficulty gaining weight is to gain weight, right? Very, very difficult. Even more difficult in most cases than the person trying to lose weight. And a lot of times people say, well, what do I have to do to gain weight with COPD? Or what do I have to do to gain weight with IPF? Or what do I have to do to gain weight with this, that, and the other thing, okay? And I'll say, well, this is what you need to do. You need to eat this amount per day. You need to add 4 tablespoons of olive oil to everything that you're eating or drinking or this and that. And you need to do this, this, and this. And if you do these things, there's a very, very good chance that you will maintain or gain weight. And I say, well, I don't really like this, or you can't do this, or this bothers this or that, the other thing. And there's sometimes what they say is correct and true and a legitimate concern, but sometimes it's resistance. And sometimes it's just this kind of wall of resistance. So I say, what would you do for a Klondike bar? Would you eat the same meal every day to gain weight? Would you eat, if you knew that this concoction that I came up with, eaten 3 times per day, will get you to gain weight in 3 months, would you be willing to eat this concoction 3 times per day for 3 months? And I find that a lot of people aren't. So the idea is you have to weigh these things out, and you have to balance yourself with, and here's the big come around, and here's the big, here's the big kind of put it all together, is you have to keep the main thing, and you have to focus on what it is that is the main thing, and you have to ask yourself, what am I willing to do to make that main thing a reality? Because what I find is that in a lot of situations, myself included, okay, I weigh out, this is what I want to accomplish. I want to, increase my endurance. I want to lose weight. I want to do this. I want to do that. The other thing I say, but do I want to do that? And do I want those things more than I want to watch all the Wednesday Chicago shows on NBC? And sometimes it's a struggle, okay? Sometimes it's a struggle, but it's really being able to ultimate pulmonary wellness. Ask yourself, what do I need today? Keeping the main thing. What would I do for that? And then focusing on it, okay? And when the things that you want outweigh the things that the things that are going to be more beneficial outweigh the things that are going to be less beneficial, like going to the gym and having, lean meat and vegetables is more beneficial than sitting on the TV sitting and watching TV and ordering food in, okay? And when those things and the benefits, and you have to look at it and say, well, when the long-term benefit outweighs the short-term pleasure, temporary pleasure, well, then you will do it. And I'll go back and say, when you want to breathe as much as you want to succeed, then you will breathe, okay? A lot here, I know it, but think about it. Take it apart, piece by piece. Have a great day, everybody.